fall down, we lay our crowns at the feet of Jesus. The greatness of mercy and love at the feet of Jesus. And we cry, holy, holy, holy. And we cry, holy, holy, holy. And we cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lamb. And we fall down, we lay our crown at the feet of Jesus. The greatness of mercy and love at the feet of Jesus. And we cry, holy, holy, holy. And we cry, holy, holy, holy. And we cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lamb. We cry, holy, holy, holy. We cry, holy, holy, holy. We cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lamb. We serve a great and awesome God. Hopefully all of you have a best friend out there somewhere, somebody that you just enjoy hanging out with more than anybody else. I want you to imagine right now that that best friend asked you to do something for him. He said, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you do this one thing for me? And you tell him, yeah, I could do that for you. And then you leave and you don't do any of it. You just completely don't do it. How does that make you feel, just thinking about that? Does it sound like you love that friend very well at that moment? Like your love for that friend isn't showing through what you do. You know what I mean? We look to God and we say, holy, holy, holy. And we say, we love you, Lord. And we say to him, you know what? I'll do you that one favor. And then we go and we just don't always get it done. We don't do it. We don't prioritize it. We do something else. And it's that love that we have for each other and that love that we have for the Father that really makes the world a different place. I mean, it's easy for anybody to just go around serving themselves, but to pick your master, your friend, and say, I will serve you and put myself second, man, that takes a lot. That takes a lot. So this morning as we worship God and sing of how great he is and how we really, really love him, I just want us to think about that and how that looks in our life and how do we portray that to the people we come in contact with? What do we do when somebody's mean to us? How do we show God's love as we go? Let's just continue to lift him up and hopefully be encouraged as we go through the service this morning that God is so amazing. He can use us to show his love to those around us because he is a great and amazing God. Let's play that in the right key. The splendor of the King, clothed in majesty, let all the earth rejoice, all the earth rejoice. He wraps himself and darkness tries to hide, and trembles at his voice, and trembles at his voice. And how great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And oh, we'll see how great is our God. And age to age he stands, and time is in his hands, beginning and the end, beginning and the end. The Godhead three in one, a Father, Spirit, Son, the Lion and the Lamb, the Lion and the Lamb. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And oh, we'll see how great is our God. He's the name above all names, worthy of all praise. My heart will sing how great is our God. Name above all names, worthy of all praise. My heart will sing how great is our God. How great is our God. Worthy of all praise. My heart will sing how great is our God. And how great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And oh, we'll see how great is our God. And how great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And oh, we'll see how great is our God. Amen. In Christ alone, my hope is found. He is my light, my strength, my song. This cornerstone, this solid ground, firm through the fiercest drought and storm. What heights of love, what depths of peace, when fears are stilled, when striving cease. My comforter, my all in all, here in the love of Christ I stand. In Christ alone, who took on flesh, full promise of God in helpless babe, this gift of love and righteousness, scorned by the ones he came to save, till on that cross as Jesus died, the wrath of God was satisfied. For every sin on him was laid, here in the death of Christ I live. There in the ground his body lay, light of the world by darkness slain, then bursting forth in glorious day, up from the grave he rose again, and as he stands in victory, sin's curse has lost its grip on me, for I am his and he is mine, bought with the precious blood of Christ. No guilt in life, no fear in death, this is the power of Christ in me. From life's first cry to final breath, Jesus commands my destiny. No power of hell, no schemes of man can ever pluck me from his hand, till he returns or calls me home. Here in the power of Christ I'll stand. Wow. I pray that's true, that you will trust in God. Whatever you're walking through, whatever you're coming from, that God would be the source of your strength, the wind in your sails, that he would be all the things that make your life move forward with meaning. Lord, I just pray that you would guide each of our hearts this morning as we hear your truth, that you would speak to us, that you would teach us, that you would help us to understand a little bit more who we are in you and who you are to us, that we could have that faith just stand firm in you every day. In Jesus' name, amen. Cross trainers, those of you about 6th grade and under, you can head back for Children's Church. Your teachers will meet you in the back.
Those of you who are over 6th grade, which is the rest of you, you can grab a Bible and open with me to the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes. Our series we've entitled Life Under the Sun. Well, we're going to experience that this week, aren't we? Life under the sun. Did you find Ecclesiastes? We're in chapter 5 today, chapter 5. This week is a holiday. You know what the holiday is? 4th of July. And what is 4th of July? What do we celebrate? Independence Day. The anniversary, 247th birthday of America. Our Declaration of Independence from England. Have you read the Declaration of Independence lately? I pulled mine out this week and looked at it. What's the most familiar sentence in the Declaration of Independence? Do you know what it is? Of course you do. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their divine Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You remember that, don't you? And so our founding fathers identified, they didn't declare them, they identified 3 rights given to us by God. Oops. 3 rights identified by God, or given to us by God. Not given to us by the government, but by God. Okay? The right to life is the first one. We seem to be kind of squashing the right to life in America today through abortion. The right to liberty. And many of our liberties today seem to be under attack, like the right, our free speech, freedom of religion. These seem to be under attack today. And then the third one was the right to the pursuit of happiness, which unfortunately most Americans interpret as the pursuit of prosperity. We have this opinion somehow in America that happiness is tied to money, bank accounts, possessions, upward mobility. And so we proudly proclaim the American dream. What is the American dream? I had to look that up this week to find out what is the American dream. And there are many definitions of the American dream, but it basically boils down to the dream that in America anybody from wherever they are born, wherever they come from, they can rise from rags to riches here in America. Rags to riches. Did you get that? That's happiness, riches. Well, here's the problem, okay? Prosperity does not necessarily equate or guarantee happiness in life. Prosperity and happiness are just not the same. Ecclesiastes, book that we're going through, is a journal of Solomon's pursuit for happiness, his quest for meaning and fulfillment in life. Life under the sun, as we've entitled it. That's his looking at life through the human plane. Well, in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, Solomon considers 2 primary pursuits in life: worship or wealth. And Jesus narrowed this pursuit in life down to the same 2 pursuits: God or money. We will worship one or the other. We will worship God or we will worship money. Matthew 6, verse 24. No one can serve 2 masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Did you get that? And yet, can I be honest with you? Most of us in America, we kind of want it both ways, don't we? So we actually practice what I call syncretism in America. We want to worship God, but we also kind of worship wealth too along the way. Well, we began looking at these two pursuits last week in chapter 5. We only made it through the first pursuit, the pursuit of God, pursuit in verses 1 through 7. We called that a reverent pursuit of God. And in verses 1 through 7, we considered 4 things that Solomon exhorted as people came. He had been observing people coming to the worship at the temple. And so he gave them 4 exhortations. Listen more, speak less, follow through with your commitments, and fear God. And so these 4 attitudes, we derive from those 4 attitudes that we're to have as we enter into God's presence. We're to enter God's presence with an open heart. In other words, we're to come with a teachable spirit, expecting to hear from God. Are you expecting to hear from God today as his word is opened? I hope you are. I hope God speaks to you today. We're also to come to God approach God with a humble heart, recognizing that God is infinite, we are finite beings. God is holy, we are unholy, we are sinners. God is God, I'm not, you're not. And so we come to God in humility. No selfish prayers, no prideful demands of God. We just come in humility before God. We also come before God with a sincere heart. No deals, no charades, no hypocrisy, no playing games with God. We're to be genuine, authentic, sincere, real with God. And then finally we come with a reverent heart. Unfortunately, in America, we tend to be rather casual and flippant in our attitude toward God today. And so we really, to be honest, we need to restore this idea of reverence in our churches and in our approach to God today. Think about it. We sang about it this morning. God is an awesome, majestic, holy God of the universe. How can we approach him flippantly, irreverently? And at the same time, this holy God is full of grace and mercy and love. It demands an attitude of reverence from our hearts, doesn't it? Well, today, in verse 8, Solomon makes an abrupt 180-degree turn, and he starts to look at a second pursuit in life, the pursuit of wealth, prosperity. I'm going to refer to this pursuit as affluenza. Affluenza. Have you ever heard that word? Let's read the passage, and then I'll discuss it and explain to you what affluenza is. Ecclesiastes 5, beginning in verse 10, and we'll read down through verse 17 right now. Whoever loves money never has money enough. Oh, no, we'll start in verse 8, excuse me. If you see the poor oppressed in a district and justice and rights denied, do not be surprised at such things, for one official is eyed by a higher one, and over them are others higher still. The increase from the land is taken by all. The king himself profits from the fields. Whoever loves money has money enough. Whoever never has money enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income. This too is meaningless. That's kind of the theme of the book, meaninglessness of life under the sun. Verse 11, as goods increase, so do those who consume them, and what benefit are they to the owner except to feast his eyes on them? The sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of a rich man permits him no sleep. I've seen a grievous evil under the sun, wealth hoarded to the harm of its owner, or wealth lost through some misfortune, so that when he has a son, there is nothing left for him. Naked a man comes from his mother's womb, and as he comes, so he departs. He takes nothing from his labor that he can carry in his hand. This too is a grievous evil. As a man comes, so he departs, and what does he gain, since he toils for the wind? All his days he eats in darkness with great frustration, affliction, and anger. the meaningless pursuit of affluenza. You know what influenza is, right? What's influenza? That's the flu bug. And how do you get the flu bug? You come into contact with some flu germ somewhere and you get the flu. And influenza leads to headaches and stomach aches and body aches. Your body aches all over. You get fevers. You start throwing up. Sometimes it even ends in death. Affluenza is a combination of two words, affluence, which is prosperity and wealth, and influenza. So you put those together and you have affluenza, which is an unhealthy relationship with money, or what we might call a consuming pursuit of wealth. It's a characteristic of a culture with a very strong materialistic value, where accumulation of riches is considered one of the highest achievements or marks of success. Sound kind of like America? Yeah, it does. How do you catch affluenza? Well, you come in contact with a germ. You get it from a very common germ. The germ is called greed. Greed, it's a germ. And unfortunately, it's very common and it's easy to catch. And so what are the symptoms of affluenza? Well, they include basically a myopic focus on earning money more and more and more. It can be accompanied by depression, a self-image tied directly to financial success or financial status. And another symptom is strained personal relationships. Now, here's the bad news, okay? Most Americans, that would probably include many of us, most Americans have at least a mild case of affluenza. Some a much greater case, but most have a mild case. Well, Solomon is going to give us here 6 perils of affluenza, or 6 perils of the pursuit of prosperity in life. So let's look at them. First one is affluenza leads to oppression of other people, oppression. Verses 8 through 9. If you see the poor oppressed in a district and justice and rights denied, do not be surprised at such things. For one official is eyed by a higher one, and over them both are others higher still. The increase from the land is taken by all. The king himself profits from the fields. Now, Solomon has referred to oppression before, and he'll probably bring it up again. He kind of cycles through several themes here in this book. And he sees oppression and injustice at every level of society. We see it today in communism, where the state takes control of the means of production. That's very oppressing the laborers. We see it in socialism with its supposed redistribution of wealth, when really the wealthy get wealthier. We see it even in capitalism today. Whenever profit is pursued without regard for the well-being of others, whether workers or consumers, either one. It was even a problem in Israel, this oppression. Fast forward about 500 years from Solomon to a guy named Nehemiah. Remember Nehemiah? It was interesting. Nehemiah was leading a building project, rebuilding the walls of the city of Jerusalem. And there was a lot of attack from outside, other people. And they went right through all that. Nothing bothered them. But what brought the walls, the building project, to a screeching halt was not external, it was internal. Strife between brothers and sisters in Jerusalem. And what was the problem? Oppression. Oppression by wealthy landowners and politicians in Jerusalem of the poor and the poorer people. They were loaning money to the poor in order that the poor could buy enough food to eat. But they didn't stop there. Then they would charge exorbitant interest or usury for that money. And when the poor couldn't pay back their loans, well, then they would enslave the debtors as well as their children in order to pay the loan off. Nehemiah put a halt to that right away. So oppression is pretty common, and it can take on many forms, whether exorbitant interest or excessive taxation or poverty-level wages, human trafficking, forced servitude, racism, bigotry. All of these can be a form of oppression. Somehow or other, poor people always seem to get the short end of the deal. The rich get richer, the powerful get more power, the poor get shafted. They get treated unfairly. Well, Solomon tells us, you shouldn't be surprised by it. Now, he's not excusing it, not at all. He's not excusing it. He's simply being realistic and pointing out the obvious. In verse 8, he even says, so one official is eyed by a higher one, and over both of them are others higher still. In other words, it doesn't matter where you're at. You might even be powerful. You can still be oppressed by people higher than you. It just kind of goes up the food chain there, you know. The wealthiest oppressed the next level and next level and next level all the way down. And as people that plant fields, well, money goes to the king as well. And so there's oppression all around us. The higher you are, the more people under you to oppress. You see, one of the symptoms of affluenza is what I would call unbridled selfishness. And when you are only concerned about yourself, about self-promotion, about getting more and more for yourself, then you simply tend to oppress anybody and everybody that is under you to get what you want. More prosperity, more power, which is exactly the opposite of what God desires from his children. When God blesses us with prosperity, he does so that we can take that prosperity and in turn use it to bless other people around us, those who need it. Do you get it? Affluenza leads to oppression. But when we pursue God, that leads to generosity rather than oppression. Second peril of affluenza. Affluenza also leads to discontent. Verse 10. Whoever loves money never has money enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income. This too is meaningless. Now I want you to notice something here. Solomon uses the word loves rather than possesses, okay? See, the Bible never condemns riches, but it does, in very strong terms, condemn loving money or greed. 1 Timothy 6:10 says, the love of money is the root of all evil. It doesn't say money is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. You see, the problem is that no matter how much money a money lover has, it's never enough. The person who loves wealth and prosperity, this never reaches a level of satisfaction in life. No matter how much he or she accumulates, they are never able to say, that's enough. John D. Rockefeller is considered one of the richest men in America years ago. Some consider him still, you know, when you consider inflation and all that stuff, still consider him to be one of the richest men who ever lived in America. But he once said, when asked how much money was enough, he simply responded, just a little bit more. He had tons of money. How much is enough? A little bit more. Here are a few more quotes from some of the wealthy people who have lived in the past. Vanderbilt said, the care of millions is enough to kill anyone. There is no pleasure in it. John Jacob Astor, I am the most miserable man on earth. Andrew Carnegie said, millionaires seldom smile. Henry Ford once said, I was happier when doing a mechanic's job. And Rockefeller again said, I have made many millions, but they have brought me no happiness. Profits, dividends, investments, interest benefits, capital gains, only whet the appetite for more and more and more. Kind of like the person standing at a slot machine. You ever been to Vegas? Or I guess you don't even have to go to Vegas anymore to see slot machines. You can just go to the reservation and find a casino there. And you see people standing in front of a slot machine. They put in a quarter, put in a quarter, pull it, just constant, right? And then all of a sudden, ding, 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 the bells go off, the whistles blow, and they hit the jackpot, right? And all these quarters come out. And what do? They gather them all up, start putting them back in, ka-ching, 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 until they run completely out again. Well, that's what wealth does to you. That's what it does. Wealth never satisfies. It's never enough. Affluenza leads to discontent. Third, affluenza also leads to unhealthy relationships. Verse 11, as goods increase, so do those who consume them. And what benefit are they to the owner except to feast his eyes on? That phrase, as goods increase, so do those who consume them, basically refers to others who consume our wealth. It might be an oppressive government who consumes our wealth through higher taxes. It could be family members who are constantly sponging off us. It could be friends or acquaintances who just want to kind of help you spend your money, you know. They think you might have too much, and so they want to help part with some of it. Or they just want some of it themselves. Isn't it amazing how many people come out of the woodwork when you get a little bit of money? Suddenly, everyone wants to be your friend, right? Everyone wants to help you spend your fortune. Someone asked me, this isn't in my notes here, but someone asked me this week what my first job was. And so I was telling them that I had 2 jobs when I was and then they asked about my high school, what I did in high school. So I said I had 2 jobs in high school. I mowed yards, had about 10 lawn jobs, and I had 2 paper routes. I was a little bit overambitious, okay? And so to be honest, I was like the wealthiest kid in school. I had a lot of money. And so I had a few friends, and we would go to play pinballs. This was in junior high, actually. We'd go play pinballs, and pinball, not slot machines, okay? Not that, but pinballs. And they loved going with me because I would hand out nickels. That was nickels, not quarters, okay? But anyway, it's amazing how many friends you get when you got a little bit of money. Just ask someone who just won the lottery how many friends they get. You know, instant wealth, instant friends, instant headaches, for sure. Wealth basically leads to fair weather friends, shallow friendships. Many are only friends as long as they can get something out of you. As soon as the resources run dry, the friends disappear. They're not really friends, are they? Solomon alluded to this in the book of Proverbs as well. He wrote, wealth brings many new friends, but a poor man is deserted by his friend. Many seek the favor of a generous man, and everyone is a friend to a man who gives gifts. Affluenza leads to unhealthy relationships. Fourth, affluenza leads to more worry. Verse 12 says, the sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of a rich man permits him no sleep. Solomon's making his point here by drawing a very sharp contrast. See, as a general rule, people who work hard all day, especially working with their hands, they sleep pretty well at night. They put in a hard day's work, they sleep well at night. On the other hand, the wealthy who don't do much during the day, just kind of sit and watch their money grow or shrink, whatever they do, well, they don't enjoy the luxury of a good night's sleep because they worry about all their wealth and all their possessions. And that just disrupts their sleep. Think about it. How can I protect my wealth? What's the stock market going to do this week? Can I ride out this downturn? Should I diversify? Is a thief going to break in and steal my valuables? You know, my gold, my silver, my jewelry, my art, whatever the valuables are. Did I lock the safe at the office? Did I lock my car door? What if someone steals my identity? Do I need to get LifeLock? All these things to worry about. The more you have, the more you worry about. And the more I worry, the less sleep I get at night. Affluenza leads to more worry. Fifth, affluenza also leads to greater loss. Solomon tells the story of a man who hoarded his, 13, I better read it for you first, okay? 13 through 14. I have seen a grievous evil under the sun, wealth hoarded to the harm of its owner, or wealth lost through some misfortune, so that when he has a son, there is nothing left for him. So Solomon here tells a story about a man who hoarded his wealth, but lost it all in some risky investment and had nothing to leave for his son. Well, in Solomon's day, that misfortune might have been a merchant ship that sank at sea. You know, he might have invested in some trade and the ship sank. Or it might have been camel trains attacked in the wilderness, or crops that he lost in a fire, or a plague of locusts, something like that. Today, misfortunes can come in many forms. It might be a hurricane or a tornado, and we've seen them all on television, haven't we? That just wipe out not just a couple homes, but entire cities. It just devastates them. Might be a loss of a job. Might be a downturn in the economy, or a stock market crash, or bankruptcy. Misfortune could be a robbery, a break-in, or a theft. When I first moved here, I used to carry a toolbox of tools. I mean, I didn't have a lot of tools, but I used to carry a lot of my tools in a toolbox. They were all craftsman tools, okay? I had some nice tools. And I carried them in my truck. And so one day, they got stolen. My truck got broken into, and they took all my tools. And so I replaced them and bought some more craftsman tools, so they liked craftsmen. And they got stolen again. The more you have, the more you have to lose. And so I bought more tools, but this time I bought Harbor Freight tools. Cheap ones, really cheap. So if someone breaks into my truck, I just say, here, take my tools. I don't care, because they're cheap. No need to worry about them. The more you have, the greater the loss. I'm also beginning to think about another example. I'm beginning to think about retiring someday, since I'm about to turn 67, but it's still a few years off. And so a couple years ago, I started checking my retirement account, my IRA account. And last year, or a couple years ago, I noticed that it was going down instead of increasing. It's kind of like the stock market, These IRAs are all tied to the stock market in one way or another. And I lost about 20% of my retirement account. And I'm thinking, oh, no, it's going to have to be 2 or 3 more years out before I can retire, which isn't a big deal. But think about it for a minute. If I had $2 million in my retirement account, how much would I have lost? Who's good at math here? $400,000. That's a lot of money to lose. I don't have that kind of money to lose. Well, I don't have $2 million in my retirement account, not even close to that. So I didn't lose as much. I didn't lose $400,000, okay? The more you have, the greater your loss. Well, it's coming back up a little bit, but I still kind of have to put it off a few more years before I can afford to retire. Affluenza simply leads to greater loss. The more you have, the more you have to lose. And then, finally, affluenza leads to a dead end in life. Verse 15, naked a man comes from his mother's womb, and as he comes, so he departs. He takes nothing from his labor that he can carry in his hand. This, too, is a grievous evil. As a man comes, so he departs. What does he gain? Since he toils for the wind? All his days he eats in darkness with great frustration, affliction, and anger. You depart this world the same way you came into the world. Naked, helpless, with nothing. Doesn't matter how much money you have. You can't take it with you when you die. Reminds me of a little story I heard a few years ago. An elderly man in his 80s had just returned from his doctor, and the doctor told him that he didn't have much longer to live. And so he gathered together, summoned 3 of the most important people in his life to tell them of this fate that he was about to face, that he wasn't going to live long. He called together his doctor, his priest, and his lawyer. And he said to them, today I have found out that I don't have much longer to live, and so I have summoned you here because you are the most important people to me in my life, and I need to ask you a favor. Today I'm going to give each of you an envelope with $100,000 cash inside the envelope. And when I die, I simply want to ask all 3 of you that you throw that money into my grave. Well, after the man passed on, the 3 just happened to run into each other one day. And the doctor said, well, I have to admit to you guys that I kept $25,000 of his money because he owed me from a lot of back medical bills. But I did throw the other $75,000 in like he requested. The priest said, well, I have to admit, too, that I kept $50,000 for the church. I mean, it's all going to a good cause, but I threw the other $50,000 in the grave. The lawyer just couldn't believe what he was hearing from these guys. He said, I am surprised at you two for taking advantage of him like you did. I wrote a check for the full amount and threw it all in. For some of you young people who never write checks, you might have to think about that for a while. Affluenza is a dead end. You cannot take any of your wealth with you. You can leave it to your kids or other people, but you can't take it with you. None of it. And so what does Solomon conclude from all of this? His conclusion is in verses 18 through 20. Then I realized that it is good and proper for a man to eat and drink and to find satisfaction in his toilsome labor under the sun during the few days of life God has given him, for this is his lot. Moreover, when God gives any man wealth and possessions and enables him to enjoy them, to accept his lot and be happy in his work, this is a gift of God. He seldom reflects on the days of his life because God keeps him occupied with gladness of heart. See, Solomon has just contrasted in this chapter the pursuit of God, which we talked about last week, and the pursuit of prosperity. Pursuit of prosperity, or what we called affluenza, is meaningless, he says. It brings no satisfaction, no fulfillment, and ultimately leads to a dead end in life. And so what's his conclusion? Does he say, so wealth is worthless? Don't pursue any wealth. No, he doesn't say that, does he? Does he suggest that we just be content with living in poverty the rest of our lives? He doesn't say that either, no. In fact, the truth is that affluenza is not a matter of how much wealth you have. It's an attitude. It's an attitude. The poor can be just as sick with affluenza as the wealthy can. They can be just as greedy. What Solomon concludes, though, is simply this: pursue God and enjoy his gifts. Pursue God. See, true satisfaction, true meaning in life, true fulfillment, true happiness is found only in pursuit of God. So pursue God first and foremost in your life. Money, materialism, wealth, and prosperity will never satisfy. Pursue God. That's where you find fulfillment. That's where you find happiness. Pursue God, but then he says, and enjoy his gifts. Because everything we have is a gift from God. Our family, our wealth, our possessions, our time, everything. It all comes from the gracious hand of a loving Father in heaven. And so as we pursue God first, that's where we find true satisfaction and fulfillment, and then we can truly enjoy whatever God gives us, whether a lot or little. We can find contentment and satisfaction and enjoyment in what God gives us if we're pursuing him first. Pursue God and enjoy his gifts. It's interesting that as we've been going through the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon, this is actually the third time that Solomon has come to a very similar conclusion. In chapter 2, verses 24 through 26, he wrote, "A man can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in his work. This, too, I see is from the hand of God, for without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? To the man who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness." Pursue God, and then enjoy his gifts. He came to a similar conclusion in chapter 3, verses 12 through 15. He said, "I know there is nothing better for men than to be happy and to do good while they live, that everyone may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all his toil. That is a gift of God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added and nothing taken from it. God does it so that man will revere him." In other words, pursue God and enjoy what he gives you. Enjoy his gifts. And then he comes to that same conclusion here in chapter 5, verses 18 through 20. "When God gives any man wealth and possessions and enables him to enjoy them, to accept his lot and be happy in his work, this is a gift from God." When you enjoy God, then you can enjoy whatever gifts God gives you. Which then brings us to his final conclusion again in chapter 12, verse 13. He goes all the way through the book, and this is his final conclusion. You remember what it is, right? You got it memorized, don't you? Ecclesiastes 12:13. Let's say it together. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Pursue God, and then you can enjoy his gifts. Let's pray. Thank you, Lord, for your word. Thank you for your challenge today. Father, I just pray that each one of us here are truly pursuing you first. And then, Lord, just give us that gift, the ability to just enjoy whatever it is you give us, Lord. Thank you for your many gifts. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Jesus, be the center, be my source, be my light, Jesus. Jesus, be the center, be my hope, be my song, Jesus. Be the fire in my heart, be the wind in these sails, be the reason that I live, Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, be my vision, be my path, be my guide, Jesus. And be the fire in my heart, be the wind in these sails, be the reason that I live, Jesus, Jesus. And Jesus, be the center, be my source, be my light, Jesus. Be my source, be my light, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Have a great day with the Lord.